After blessing the crowd, Solomon stood before the altar of the Lord. He knelt down and prayed a prayer of dedication for the temple. Solomon thanked God for keeping his promises that had been made to Solomon's father, King David. He asked God to hear the prayers of his people and to live amongst his people, the Israelites, for as long as they obeyed him, just as God had promised. He asked God to forgive those who asked for forgiveness and to protect them in times of trouble. And if Israel ever fell into the hands of their enemies and cried out to God, Solomon asked that God rescue them. When Solomon had finished praying, he stood up and blessed the people of Israel, reminding them that God had always been faithful to them and that they should follow all of God's commands. He offered fellowship offerings to God and went on to dedicate other areas of the temple by offering sacrifices. They celebrated the Festival of Tabernacles for 7 days more, 14 days in all before the people were sent away. Everyone went home blessing King Solomon and rejoicing for all the good things that God had done for David and his people. Once Solomon had achieved all that he'd wanted by building the temple and his palace, God appeared to Solomon a second time, just as he had at Gibeon. God told Solomon that he had heard his prayer and that his heart and eyes would always be at the temple, as long as Solomon and his sons obeyed God's law. He repeated his promise that if Solomon remained faithful to him, God would establish Solomon's family's throne over Israel forever. But God also warned Solomon that if his family turned away from him, he would reject the temple and it would be destroyed. Everyone would see that this had happened because Israel had rejected God.